Welcome back to Spotlight Over the City, and we have another plus one in the building. This young man is nothing short of amazing. He got so many
Yes.
accolades. I might have to read them.
I'm
Matter of fact, I'm gonna let
telling you.
wifey do that, and
I'm
we're gonna get it in.
excited. I think this is my second time getting to kind of meet him over the show because when we were at another studio, we had him as a part of the show. So he's truly a part of our Spotlight Over the City family.
For sure.
We have the one and only Mark Anthony, who is the psychic lawyer, also known as the Psychic Explorer. And he is a fourth generation psychic medium who communicates with spirits, you all. He's also a successful attorney, and he's licensed to practice law in Florida, Washington, D.C., and before the United States Supreme Court. Man, he's got a lot of accolades behind him. He's a best-selling author of Never Letting Go and Evidence of Eternity. And his highly anticipated third book is coming soon, you all. Y'all, please give it up for Spotlight family member, the psychic lawyer, Mark Anthony.
Welcome aboard. Welcome, Mark. Good to have you.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be on the show, and it's great to see both of you again.
Oh, thank
Man,
you
it's a pleasure.
so much.
So,
Welcome.
how are you? Before we get into it, how are you holding up during this pandemic? How's everything been?
Well, we all have to adapt and be flexible. And, at first it really had me rattled. And then I started remembering when I was 16 years old, I met this older woman who she was probably in her 70s when I met her. And she had lived through the London air blitz. And she was like this very proper elderly English woman. And she was telling me what it was like, how when the German bombers were coming in for 4 months nonstop every day, London was getting bombed, and how they were hiding in she called them the tubes. We call it a subway. And I said, my God, how did you handle that? And she said, a crisis is no time to fall apart. She goes, stiff upper lip, and she was like very English that way. She said, but I was only 17 and I was scared to death. She said, Mark, being brave isn't about being fearless. She said, we were terrified. We were scared to death. But sometimes you just have to put one foot in front of the other and keep trudging along. And she told me that every day that you're alive is a miracle. And when you don't think that miracles exist, she said, look in the mirror, because you are the miracle. And I started flashing on that. And I started realizing, we're not being asked to suffer through a bombing by a foreign power, nor are we waiting for nuclear fallout. We're being asked to stay home and watch Netflix and listen to Spotlight on the City. So I think we can learn a lot from our predecessors. So that's been it was just a one-time conversation. And she was one of those people that you meet, like the sympathetic ear on the train, or somebody that'll tell you their whole life story. And who knew, so many years later, it would be my inspiration.
Wow. Well, now it's our inspiration, because that's something that it's all about perspective, in my opinion. And so that gives a person a great perspective. You know what I mean? It's not about being afraid. It's about pushing through the fear, right? And still doing it anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
The one thing, there's several factors about this COVID crisis, and I don't want to get all on it, but what it's teaching humanity is that we really are one big human family, because unlike human beings, the disease doesn't discriminate. It'll kill everybody. It'll kill young, old, it doesn't matter what race we are, what creed, what our ethnic background, socioeconomic status. And for the first time in human history, all of our medical experts, our scientists are working for a common purpose. So on the flip side of the karmic coin, if you will, humanity's being given a choice. If we put our scientists working together, we can actually solve this planet's problems. And it's high time we realize we really are all brothers and sisters. So if there's anything to be learned out of this, I think that's part of it.
I agree. And if not now, then when, right?
Wow.
So I'm gonna get into it, Mark, because we got a ton of people wanted to ask
You got
questions. But I had some
I've
questions
even got
for
a
you prior
question
to.
myself. Yes.
One young lady, I gotta tell this. Well, I don't know if I have time. How much time we got?
Just
I'll
get
get
her
into
question.
it. But this young lady sent me a question, and it had me totally flustered. It was funny. I'm gonna tell you about it. But you were known as the psychic lawyer, of course. So don't most people think that the two things kind of are like polar opposites? To be a psychic lawyer, a psychic and a lawyer, like that's cheating a little bit, right?
Well, we all have a skill set, and this has been part of mine. I was born this way. Both my parents had these abilities. It runs in the family for generations. And I was going to go into the clergy because it's not unusual for mediums to be drawn to the spiritual. But I thought there were too many rules and regulations. So for some reason, I ended up in law. Not that there's rules and regulations there. But both jobs are about helping people. And I know a lot of people don't necessarily like attorneys, but you go to an attorney when things are not going well in your life and you need the professional assistance to get through some really difficult times. And as a medium, what I do is help people cope with the death of a loved one by helping them understand that life is eternal and facilitating communication between this side and the other side. And it comes down to both jobs also revolve upon evidence. Certainly lawyers need to have evidence to substantiate their case, but also as a medium, I have to produce evidence, verifiable facts from the spirit to guarantee the authenticity of the contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's facts.
Wow.
So speaking of that line of work, tell me one good time that you had to actually use your psychic ability to aid law enforcement.
Well, a couple of years ago, I was on the TV show The Doctors, and they asked me to do a reading in a cold case for this young woman who'd been brutally murdered in Arizona. And the information that I got, it was about, I kept saying that the DNA tests need to be broadened, and when they did this, this will lead them to the killer, who will be under arrest for a different charge. And there's quite a bit more to it than that. But long story short, that's exactly what the police did. The family went back, told them what I said. They instituted the familial DNA test, which broadens the parameters, and it led to this one guy in prison, and it indicated that a close relative of his had a direct DNA match to the murder scene, and that was his brother, who just got arrested for his 4th drunk driving charge, and now he's sitting in jail awaiting murder on premeditated first-degree murder charges. So the information that I gave the police helped lead them to admissible evidence. And let's face it, with this DNA, they got a 100% match. This guy is hopefully going to get what he deserves.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, I can see. So that's the part that we would say, you're cheating. You couldn't do that. But as a lawyer, if that's your gift, that's your gift. That's a great gift to have as an attorney.
There's nothing cheating about it. I mean, we all have a skill set. Some people, some lawyers, they'll cut you in too. Okay, they just have this hyper-aggressive nastiness. But it comes down to this. Anyone who's like a first responder, whether it's a paramedic, fireman, police officer, military, you got to learn to trust your gut. Go on your intuition. And the thing is, and I'd like to ask this to both of you. All right, anytime you've overruled your woman's intuition or your man's gut instinct, have you been happy you did, or did you regret it?
That's a great question, Mark.
It is.
Most times I was kind of happy about it, but a few times I've regretted it.
Yeah.
Only because I didn't like what I already knew I wouldn't like. Like it was really, I found out what I had an intuition about was really real, and then I didn't like it, type of thing. But yeah.
Wow.
So I'm gonna switch gears a little bit on you.
Yeah, get to that, young ladies.
I want to know something from the spiritual side real quick. A lot of people want to know about a medium being a spiritual person. So, is it really scary when you first encounter seeing spirit world or dealing in spirit world? How do you first encounter that?
Well, I was 3.5 years old, and I started having these invisible friends, and I'd sit there and talk to them, and I was all happy about it. And I'll never forget, though, my mother was like, "He's got it." And my dad was like, "He's got it." So my parents, it's never been scary to me. I've always looked at it as it's a gift from God. and it's a gift to be used to help people understand that life is eternal. But my parents, they sat me down and they said, Mark, people won't understand. So you can talk about it to us, so keep it in the house. And as I started getting older, I realized that not everybody's family sees dead people, and that it's probably a good idea not to talk about it in school. Because I went to Catholic school, and I thought, well, they'd be open-minded to it. No.
No, I can definitely say that's a no.
Wow.
So when you deal with spirit world, do you easily be able to have a discernment between a good versus not so good spirit?
Sorry, say that again.
Like when you deal in spirit world, when you first encounter a certain spirit, can you tell just by the first encounter whether it's a negative or a great spirit, like a good or bad spirit?
Well, in the 15,000 readings that I've done, which would indicate that I've probably connected with roughly 100,000 spirits in my life, I have not encountered an evil spirit. I don't believe in hell. I don't believe in the devil. I don't believe in demons. Now, that being said, a lot of, horrible people die every day. And when we die, what dies with us is the ego and the personality and the factors that made somebody negative. But once you transition to the other side, you have the ability to reflect on the negative things that you've done. But I have connected with people from the other side that were serial killers and did some very, very horrific and terrible things, but they're not like that on the other side, although they do retain the memories of what they did here. It's quite a bit more complicated than that, because a lot of people think that spirit communication is scary and frightening, and that has not been my experience.
I have a question, Mark. When we talk about being able to know about things or tell about things in the spirit realm, is it also you having the ability to help people understand what might be coming ahead of them, or is it just being able to speak with dead spirits, people that have passed on to the next life? Or are you able to say, for me, am I able to come to you and you kind of like feel my energy and give me some insight as to whether or not Stan and I will be together forever or something like that? Like, I would want to know, like, if you have the ability to feel my spirit or feel the energy and be like, you know what I see for you and Stan is whatever,
Well, that's a very good question. There's different type of doctors. There's different types of lawyers. There's different types of psychics. I'm known as a psychic medium, which means I communicate with spirits. If I was purely just psychic, then I would do what you were suggesting, tune into your energy, and from your energetic field, discern events from your past, present, and future. Now, I'm capable of doing that because all mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums. But I found it's more reliable if a spirit will give us the advice about you, because they can perceive what we consider to be the future. For example, I was in Texas, and I was doing a group reading, a couple hundred people there. This young couple there, and they're probably early to mid-20s. Anyway, the spirit started targeting the husband and kept saying something about his lower abdominal region. And I said, you got to get a blood test. You got to get a blood test. There's something going on. You got to get a blood test, and there's some very serious thing going in your lower abdominal region. And he was like, and the wife, and she was like, he's fine. They were rolling their eyes. I go, please listen to me. Well, about a month later, I received an email from the wife, and she said, we sure wish we would have listened to you, because a week after that reading you did, my husband's appendix burst, and it was so bad they had to remove his colon. And I take no pleasure in being right about this. And she said that the surgeon told them a simple blood test would have shown an elevated white blood cell count, and that would have tipped them off. So in that case, the spirits were trying to intervene. Then there was another case. I was doing a reading for this young girl and her mother, and the spirit said, don't go to the concert. Don't get in that car. Don't get in the concert. And then that keeps getting repeated. And the young lady, she was probably a teenager. She was like 16 or 17. She goes, well, I'm supposed to go to this concert in a week, and my friends are driving. And her mother's like hell you are. So, yeah, I didn't think anything of it. A year later, I saw them. Actually, they came to another event, and they told me that she decided not to go, and she told her friends, and they were driving on I-95, and they got 4 blowouts, all 4 tires. They must have run over something, blew out. They were stranded on I-95. But she said they were so freaked out from what she told them that came through me that they were going really slow. But the thing is, that's what I call spirit intervention. The spirits came in. She didn't go, but she warned her friends, so they were traveling in much slower speed. So when all of a sudden all 4 of their tires blew out, if they'd been, going 90 miles an hour, they could have flipped the car and been killed. So spirits will give us future events, and they do it to help us.
Wow.
It's to intervene and head off at the past, something negative.
Wow.
That's wow. So do you believe in time travel, Mark? Do you believe in time travel?
In a way. I know, yeah, I do in a sense, because when you start studying space-time and going back to Albert Einstein and bringing it forward, space-time means that on the quantum level, there is no time. So we're able to see past and future events. And when I talk about the quantum level, a lot of my work, I explain spirit communication not just through faith, but also through quantum physics, because it's not hocus pocus or magic. There's a scientific basis for everything. And so on the most basic level of creation, on the subatomic level, everything is known as quanta. That's where the term quantum physics comes from. And quanta is electromagnetic energy. On the quantum level, physicists now believe that there is no time in the sense that we know it. And what's really fascinating, this gets into concepts of reincarnation and future lives. Whereas in India, where they've been studying reincarnation for the better part of 5,000 years, they believe, without using the term quantum physics, they believe that everything's energy and interconnected, so that your next reincarnation, your next life, could actually be in what you and I call the past.
Yeah, I got it.
It's pretty heavy stuff when you start wrapping your mind around it. But to answer your question directly, yes, I believe that time travel is possible. It definitely is on the subatomic level. Now, whether you and I are going to step into a time machine and hit a button and all of a sudden we're back in, 1776 or, whatever, that I don't know if we're ever going to be able to do that. But
Yeah.
Suffice it to say, I like to keep an open mind.
Well, I'm a weirdo, so that's why I asked that question. I believe in astrophysics. I believe in all of those things. I believe in traveling, not just time travel, but I believe in people can travel, or in other words, leave their flesh and
Let me
bone.
ask you this: if you could go back in time and you could change one thing, what would it be?
Slavery.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Slavery.
Wow.
But how would you change that as one person? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Slavery is such a horrible thing, and it incenses me when I see that it's still going on in various forms throughout the world. But look what it's done. It's just been it. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she's a TV show host in Houston, Deborah Duncan, and we had she's African American, and we had this very fascinating discussion that what if the founding fathers had declared when the U.S. Constitution was being enacted that slavery should be illegal. Okay, and let's assume that the founding fathers of this country agreed to it. She said, I don't think we'd have the racial division like we do now, because the Civil War made it appear that the change was being forcibly imposed, and that's what came with the resistance, which has led with this ongoing racism. Whereas if it had been something that was agreed to by consensus, there would have been a gradual blending of the culture. I thought that was interesting. I mean, there's no way that we'll ever know that, but it's fascinating that if we could have been like the European countries and simply passed a law abolishing slavery and did not have to go through the Civil War, society today could be very different. I mean, in France, traditionally, it didn't matter if you were black or white in Paris. The French have always been very, very accepting of people of other races. Whereas in the United States, I can't even believe in the 21st century, we even have to have these discussions, but we have to have these discussions.
Most definitely. Yeah. Hey, Mark, I'm sorry. We kind of running out of time because we had so many questions I want to ask. But real quick, I wanted to know how much time we got.
You got like 2 more minutes.
All right, well, we got 2 minutes, Mark. I wanted you to talk a little bit about your book, Never Letting Go and Evidence of Eternity. I wanted to know what made you even write these 2 books?
My first book, Never Letting Go, is a guide on the journey through grief, and it helps people cope with the death of a loved one, and it helps show you how to recognize when your loved ones in spirit are near. It's recommended by hospices and grief counselors worldwide. And then my second book, Evidence of Eternity, bridges the gap between the spiritual and the scientific by explaining spirit communication on the basis of science, quantum physics, human physiology, faith, and evidence. And I'm very humbled by this book because it was up for a Pulitzer Prize.
Wow.
And both of my books are in several languages. They're both on audio. If people want to order my books or sign up for a reading with me, kindly visit my website, evidenceofeternity.com. And I also want to extend a special offer to all the listeners of this show. If you want to apply for a reading with me, go to my website, evidenceofeternity.com, and in the application form, mention Spotlight on the City, and you'll be eligible for a reduced fee session with me. And I want to make this available to all of your listeners because, we're all suffering under financial burden now, and it's the very least I can do to help people, because now more than ever, we need messages of love, healing, and resolution from our loved ones in spirit.
I couldn't agree more, Mark. And I think that book, the one you said, Evidence of Eternity, I'm sorry, not Evidence of Eternity, Never Letting Go, I think that's a very important book right now because a lot of people are dealing with death and they're having a hard time dealing with death. Yeah. So I want to thank you again, Mark, for being a part of the show. For those of you guys who had questions, a lot of people he didn't ask my question that he said. Well,
his website.
You got to go to the website, and I'm sorry. The reason we didn't do it is because Mark is a medium more so than a psychic, in a sense. And so what I was saying was he could call on spirits and talk to spirit, but not necessarily tell you are you going to get married, how is your singing career going to turn out, right, and those kind of things. And so we had those kind of questions. So sorry, you guys, that's not what we were prepared to ask today, Mark, because that's not what he's here to do. So sorry, Mark, we didn't get to that part of the session. You guys can go and definitely check out Mark on his website. You can sign up and get a discounted session. Mention Spotlight Over the City, and he will do just that. Thanks again, Mark, and you're helping a lot of people, and we appreciate you for being a part.
Thank you so much
God bless.
for being a part. God bless you.